How's it going, everybody? Bryan, Alvarez, and Dave Meltzer here, Wrestling Observer Radio. It is October 13, 2019, figure4online.com/wrestlingobserver.com. Saturday night here, just keep doing shows. A lot to get into here today, including Smackdown ratings for the show last night, down almost 1 million viewers on the overnight.
It's actually worse than you think, because last week they did not have either Dish or Sling counted in because they weren't carrying Fox. So you look at it and you go, they're down 1 million, and which is not good, but it's actually worse than it looks. But again, last week's number, like I could have told people, last week's number, if you think that that's indicative of anything, it wasn't. You're not going to have Dwayne Johnson on. You're not going to tell people Austin's on, Hogan's on, Flair's on, all in one show. It's not. You know, when people looked at that number and go, "Oh, like what a great number," I actually thought, you know, it was nothing special, because look at all those stars. It was not indicative. You know, the first number we're going to get that's indicative to a degree will be next week. But really, I would say the number, because the week after is going to be on FS1 and won't do well. And then the week coming back, you can go, well, they were off a week. So it's really the week after that where I think we're going to really see, you know, what level this thing's going to be at. But this week's rating was not good, because I mean, this is the level what they got last night, you know, essentially like 0.95, 2.9 million viewers. That's what they hoped for to be the average. And this is not going to be last night. I mean, even though the show wasn't particularly good, that was not going to draw an average rating. I mean, the average rating is going to be significantly lower. So, I mean, how much lower? I mean, that's when next week we'll have a good idea, and really, like I said, where we're at in a couple weeks after that is going to be more indicative of what this thing falls under. It's not. I mean, I know people are thinking, oh, you know, now it's going to move to FS1 or they're going to cancel and all that. And that didn't happen anytime soon. I mean, it may not ever happen, but it's not happening anytime soon. Even if it gets down to 2 million viewers, they'll take it on the chin for a while. And it's not going to get, you know, it'll fall for sure. You know, I mean, you know, wherever it is, I mean, you know, maybe 2.5 million, maybe lower, but it isn't going to go under 2 million, not on Fox. And while they won't be happy at 2 million, they've invested a lot in this. It's not it's not like they're going to cancel it. But yeah, they're way low. They're way below where they were a year ago. You know.
Listen, all I know is people got mad at me when I didn't like the debut, but it was building up a lot of part-timers and one-offs. They did very little to build up the people that have to carry that show every week. This week was not even like a normal show. Like, this was a draft show. They built this up for a long time. This was a special show.
Yep,
the show
absolutely
sucked. The draft was bad.
The draft was bad.
And like when it was over, what did they do to make you excited for next week's SmackDown? They did nothing. So I don't see many positives coming out of this.
It was also very fake. And I think that was a bad thing. When I was watching that show, and granted, I've only watched a little bit of the television version. I didn't watch the TV today. I watched about 20 minutes of it. But I need to watch the whole show. But being there live...
you really don't need to watch the whole show.
No, but being there live, and I'm not talking about like the matches. The matches are matches. They were, you know... I mean, they weren't bad other than the, you know... I mean, like, you know, the Bayley-Charlotte match was fine. The Roman Reigns-Seth Rollins match was good. The Corbin, you know, the 6-man tag was fine. I mean, it was, and the finish was good. And the Chad Gable match sucked. But it you know, I mean, it was normal. It was like normal watching a normal WWE wrestling show. But all the draft related stuff was so fake. And I don't know that that's the way to go to be. You know, I think that everyone's out there with the idea that they're going to do spoof sports. And I don't know that spoof sports is, you know, I mean, the sports people may like that. You know, we're going to have fun doing spoof sports. I don't think that that's a winning formula at all. But then again, that was this week with a lot of, you know, they wanted to do this draft thing and they wanted to do a sports like draft. And it was like, you know, a comedy, you know, the War Room and all that stuff. To me, that those sketches didn't work, and it really like made it worse. And then just the way The way they handled the draft,
Dude, the way they did it on TV, it didn't come off like it was supposed to be comedy. It came off like they were trying to be serious, but it was ridiculous.
With a robot?
Well, I mean, there was a robot there, but it was like, they were excited about this pick. They were upset about this pick.
But it was so fake.
Yeah, well, everything they do is fake.
No, but
you're used to watching wrestling. Like, if you weren't used to watching wrestling and you watched anything on that show, the interviews, the commentary, it's all fake. You just don't usually have to see a war room every week. That was just as fake as everything else on the show.
Well, the matches are matches. I mean, it's like wrestling matches are wrestling matches. I know the interviews often feel fake, but the
commentary feels fake. The interviews feel fake. It's all fake. That's the problem.
The commentary is very fake. I agree with you there. I mean, that's been a problem for a long, long time. I mean, and you really see it when you're seeing these other wrestling products out there, like, with the NWA product, because that announcing, it was so good. The AEW product, the announcing is good.
That's one of the big problems. There are so many companies. Like, if you're a wrestling fan, I'm not talking about a normal person, but like if you're a wrestling fan and you watch other stuff, there's so much good quality product out there that WWE looks like a parody of pro wrestling.
You know what? So it's funny you say that, because I say that all the time. It's like, but there's people who swear by WWE because it's their childhood, or because of this thing where they've been brainwashed that if you don't make it in WWE, it doesn't count. And it's the reality is that, as a product, I mean, for worldwide popularity, WWE is obviously number one, and will be for some time to come. And with the finances that they've got, those TV deals, there's just too much money for them not to be, in the sense of, and the Cain Velasquez thing's the perfect example. It's like, of all the styles of wrestling, if Cain Velasquez could do what would be the most fun, he would do Lucha Libre. And I'm not putting words in his mouth. He told me that himself. He would do Lucha Libre. But, and he would love to work for AEW. But the reality is WWE made him a far better offer. AEW, when they heard the WWE offer, didn't even really make a counter deal. It was like, oh, that's your offer? Go ahead. It's just like, and that's, and obviously AAA would want him, but that's, so that's, that's the advantage that WWE has with the finances. They can spend a lot of money. They got the Saudi show where, they've got, that is another big advantage. And, so they're going to be number one from a business standpoint. They're going to get a lot of the free agent talent. I mean, they didn't get, at the beginning of the year, they weren't getting a lot of it. But I think now, there were guys who absolutely wanted to leave that stayed because they were offered so much money. So they have that advantage. But as a product, it is far from number one. Now, NXT is a good product. But I mean, the WWE main roster, between the, everything about it, it's like, I mean, I just find it funny because, like Raw, I think of all the wrestling shows I see, Raw is probably the worst. Although the Smackdown show this week was not good, and Raw has gotten better. I mean, of late, but I mean, as a general rule, for the year of 2019.
For 2019, yes, but Raw has been better than SmackDown the last few weeks.
Absolutely. But for the year 2019, I mean, Raw was the toughest show to watch. Week in and week out. When I watch, if you want something like to me, pro wrestling, I mean, obviously pro wrestling is fake, but when I watch New Japan, it doesn't feel fake at all. The announcing's not fake. The matches don't feel fake. I mean, it's the fans are passionate about everything that happens. They have their bad matches and they, go overboard at times for sure. But I don't feel fake like I'm watching fake. Like they're doing a spoof of wrestling. I feel like they're doing pro wrestling. AEW is an entertainment form of pro wrestling. I think that, there's certain depth issues, I suppose. But I mean, at the top level, the wrestling is fantastic. The top guys and everything like that. And the promos, they've got some awesome promo guys there right now. And they're not shortchanged because no one is micromanaging them, which is a big thing. Because my God, I mean, realistically, Kevin Owens just for a name. I mean, I know Kevin Owens is one of the best promos in the business, and actually his promos are really good. But he's the exception. But I think a lot of those guys would be so much better. Roman Reigns would be so much better if they just said, this is your deal, and because I know he's very natural. And he's very charming, and you don't see it when he does his promos. When you see him do his promos, he's saying all these fake words. Seth Rollins I don't know how good Seth Rollins would be as a promo, with other things, but it's just like, and he's good, but it's like, I never get that feeling that I got. Heyman sometimes for sure, but for the most part, and also the other problem is that it's too much talking, and it's that back and forth, bullshit thing where they're not, you know what I mean? It's like they're my turn, your turn talking, which is just the absolute worst. So yeah, I mean, that's a problem. As people get exposed to more wrestling, I think WWE is, but the problem with WWE is, number one is that they're married to the scriptwriter concept. And the overly scripted. I mean, there's nothing wrong with script writers, okay? But overly scripted, it's like, give the people a little bit of freedom. But I think that as people get more and more exposed to other forms of wrestling, I think that they'll start to realize that, WWE is just a form of wrestling. And that's what it is. And They got, with this Fox deal, they got a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to expand their audience. And I mean, week one, they got a lot of attention. They got a big rating and everything, but to fall this much in week two with the draft, it's a message. Friday night sucks for the audience that they're looking for also. And, if they had one show a week and it was Friday night, I think that the show would do very, very well. Because wrestling fans will watch wrestling, they'll DVR it and all that. But when there's so many shows a week, people are going to pick and choose. And everybody was down. Raw actually, Raw was the only one. Raw was down 9% this week. Everybody else was down a lot more than that. And I just think, in the weeks to come, my gut still is that we're not going into a boom period. I know a lot of people think we are. In the business world. I don't know about wrestling fans, but in the business world, I know that everyone still thinks that. But I think that all these shows are going to hurt each other in the long run. And it's going to, like, the overexposure is going to burn people out. And, and this is, that every show declined more than most people predicted this week. And the Smackdown number was appreciably lower. The NXT number was the NXT and the Raw number were about where I expected. The other two numbers were significantly lower than I expected. So, we'll see going forward.
So we're on Monday night. The temerity of these people. They've announced it'll be Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks to open up the show with the winner getting to, their brand gets to make the first pick. Coming off Friday, where they did the same thing and screwed us out of a finish.
I know. Who can get excited over
come on.
Who can get excited over that? The good news is that Sasha Banks is apparently going to be wrestling on Monday, so her injuries, she was all banged up, didn't turn out to be that bad, so that's good. Aside from that, yeah, I wonder, because in theory, because of the draft, the number should go up. But I wonder after Friday, with such the presentation of the draft, I wonder if it's going to happen. I mean, I don't.
I can't imagine getting excited for this show after watching Smackdown.
No, I agree. And the other thing too is I think that of all the drafts in history, I think this is a safe bet to say that this will be the lowest rated Raw draft in history. I'd be very surprised if that's not the case, because it's, again, the SmackDown one wasn't bad, and SmackDown came first, and SmackDown set the table, so to speak, to basically tell you, and there'll be a few people changing, most people stay the same, but the whole presentation of the show is not going to be much. So I wonder what's going to happen. There are a bunch of guys that were on that SmackDown list that, weren't drafted, and usually don't they usually like put the thing like, because remember like before they do the draft, and then the guys who weren't drafted would have to go to WWE.com like an hour after the show to find out what the hell the
that was back in the day when the draft was one show. So the thing this year is they're going to do the second draft on Monday, and then the story is that anybody who doesn't get drafted is a free agent. So my guess is they'll drag that out over a week or so and have people sign with each brand.
Yeah, but that's going to, well, we'll see how they play it. It doesn't feel great to me the way they've done that. I mean, to me, it's like they had those list of guys, and the people on that list that didn't get drafted, I guess you can't say they're going to Raw or whatever. I guess you do have to wait until after Monday. So, that's just filling out the roster. So, okay, so here's the thing as far as what happened on Friday. You'll love this story. So this is the story. They were sent these lists, and I wouldn't be surprised if that Raw list is like exactly accurate as to what it's going to be. Now they may change it, they may not. They didn't change SmackDown though, so
they did about an hour and 35 minutes in. Like they, instead of drafting Alexa and Nikki together, they split them up to make it a little bit different.
Alexa, okay,
but they did both go to Raw, yes.
Okay, but no, there were. I didn't look and try to compare, but I know there were one or two things. Now, Alexa and Nikki, even though that was the order and all that, Alexa and Nikki were supposed to be separate picks. Now, I have no answer as to why. Your explanation, was like, why would you waste a pick? And there is no answer to that.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, it is. Why would you waste a pick? It makes no sense. But nevertheless, when they went through it, Alexa and Nikki were not supposed to be drafted together. They were going to be separate picks. So that was not a thing that changed. They may have tweaked one or two things. They may tweak one or two things on Monday.
Here's the funniest thing about that, by the way.
Yeah.
After it was over, on their social media, they interviewed Alexa where she talked about being so happy that her partner was going to Raw with her.
When they should have been picked together. If they didn't establish that with the OC, it's one thing, but they did. And they
Dude, it was in the rules at the beginning of the show. It flat out said on the screen that teams count as one pick. That was on the screen at the beginning of the show. It's not even like something we made up or they had to establish. They said it right there at the beginning of the show.
Okay, nobody told me this, but maybe this is the answer, okay? The OC is called the OC, right? The Revival is called the Revival. The Usos are called the Usos. Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss don't have a name. I mean, I know they're a team, but they don't have a name, so maybe that's it.
They were the tag team champions until Monday. It's ridiculous.
Look, I know. It is ridiculous. It's stupid. I'm just trying to come up with an answer because they, like I said, they were not supposed to be drafted together. Now, so anyway, what happened was, so those were the lists, and then they were told, so the person who gave the website the lists, actually, that was the list of orders. And they were told, the website people were told, put these names up in alphabetical order. That's what they were told. And somehow alphabetical order got forgotten and they just put the lists up as they were. So that's why it ended up the way it did. But it was those lists when WCW. They went to the website. Well, it is. So here is what it is. Okay. It's not, WCW was a different kind of incompetent.
Different than this kind of incompetence?
Yes. Okay, because this incompetence is different. Okay, the WCW incompetence was pure incompetence and disorganization, and people in charge who didn't know what they were doing. Okay, so that's what they had. This is not. I mean, this is the fact that they are so scared of anything getting out that they don't tell anyone anything. So therefore, all these people, whether you're in the live events department, whether you're in the, it's. I just remember like.
If you could only see my face right now as you explain this.
Yeah, but they won't tell anyone anything. I mean, because they're afraid it's going to get out because they, and you can't run. I don't know that you should run a wrestling company with that. I mean, I guess things get out and you don't want them to, but now it's like,
so the draft order got out.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But that's a different incompetence. That's because somebody didn't listen to when they were told to put it up in alphabetical order. So that wasn't what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when, you'll do things and you have plans, but you won't tell anyone your long-term plans, even though it means that your advertising is all out of whack. Just as an example, like, because I was out with the video game people all weekend, and it's like, it's a running joke that by the time the video game comes out, it's like characters change and this and that, and a lot of times that's that's just the nature of the beast, and it's going to happen. Okay, a lot of times it is. People will come up, like they're going to come up with an idea, and it'll be after the deadline for the game, but it's before the game comes out. So it's just going to happen. That's just going to happen and it'll happen in any wrestling company. Somebody gets hurt, somebody comes up with an idea, and things change. So there's that. But when they have like legitimate plans, and it's like, okay, our video game is coming out. Let's just say the video game is coming out on October 22nd. This character is going to be this, but they won't tell them. So their own game is outdated when it comes out because they are, like,
I understand what you're saying, but if they had told the video game company in July that Daniel Bryan is going to be feuding with Roman Reigns as a heel, that game would have been outdated because they changed their mind and didn't do that. It doesn't matter if they tell the video game something 6 months from now.
That's not an issue because it's not because the video game's not about feuds, but the video game would be about characters. Now, they did get Bray Wyatt in, which was really, really important because obviously he's going to be one of the key characters in the game. So they did get the new Bray Wyatt in.
Well, I hope they got Shorty Gable in.
They didn't get Shorty Gable in, thank God. But like, one of the jokes is like the game's coming out and Bayley is the old Bayley that's been dead and buried by this time. And perhaps, when they had their deadline for the
There's no way they knew she was cutting her hair and killing those guys by the time the video game came out.
Okay,
There's
you're right.
No chance.
Okay. You're probably right. But if they were like a super organized company that was planned out well in advance, put it this way, if they were the WWF of the 80s, they would have known because everything was done way, way, way in advance. They booked far in advance. But yeah, now, but even like something like the live events promotion, they won't tell anyone anything. That's, they'll give them fake cards and all this. It's like, well, I don't know.
Well, you're right to a degree, but the reason that Bray Wyatt did the challenge on Firefly Funhouse was because the prior weekend, the building announced that was the match for Hell in a Cell.
Well, but that was actually the match, though.
I know. So they actually did get the match in advance.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. When I told you that night when it first came out, I go, this is one of the rare cases where it's not false advertising. This is actually it. And it was like people didn't even believe it because it's always fake. But this time it actually wasn't. Because and that was the exception to the rule. That was a case where they did tell, but did that like kill anything? No. It just was what it was. That,
it did to the degree that if they didn't care that it got out, they could have done a good job building up the match. Instead, because it got out, they do a Firefly Funhouse. They do every single week, and completely at random, Bray just says, "I'll see you at Hell in a Cell." It's like, what?
Well,
that's the build to this match?
No, but they did angle after angle.
They did angles, but it would have been better to like build something up and then announce the match, as opposed to announce the match and then shoot the angles.
Well, either way, it's not. Announcing the match and then doing the angles is not exactly something that's never happened before in wrestling. That's a regular occurrence from the beginning of time. At times you do angles first, at times you announce the match and then you do the angles. There's no rule that, either way. I don't think that was like a big deal, one way or the other. I think that it was the thing that I think is that it was probably too quick, but they also had nothing else. They had nothing else that would draw, so that was where they went. I think Bray Wyatt should have run through the roster or at least run through part of the roster before getting the match, so there would be more steam instead of going right to the match, especially because in hindsight, they booked a match, and then after they booked a match, then they figured out that they didn't have a finish, which was not the best thing in the world at all, and led to what we saw. So that's another issue. But anyway, the rating was what it was. It'll either be an 0.9 or a 1.0 in 18 to 49. They were, 1.0 was supposed to be their average. If the draft, they wanted to do 3 million viewers a week. They're below that already. They're not going to get what they anticipated. So, but you know what though? I mean, when those numbers first came out of what they wanted, and originally, it was 3.3 million. Then it kind of, went down a little bit each time, as more and more facts came in, or more and more, whatever. But I mean, I never thought that they would get that. I mean, when they did that big number of week one, people were like, oh, like this is great and everything. It's like, you cannot, it's like Raw Reunion. Like I said, you cannot even use this number to gauge anything. And the gauge I thought was, it's not that great. I mean, it's good, but it's like the number. I mean, the number looks good, but you're looking at the long term. It's like, you really think that you're not going to fall from below a 1.0 in the demo when you're starting at 1.35. I knew they would fall below it. I didn't think it would be this week. I thought it would be the week after, and the fact that it's this week is not a good sign. So, but it's still, SmackDown is still going to be the most watched wrestling show for a long, long time, no matter what, just because it's on Fox. Even on a bad night, it's still going to beat Raw for at least a while. I mean, no one can judge forever. AEW can beat it anytime soon. I mean, maybe never, but I mean, you never want to say never. But then it's not going to be, AEW on TNT is not beating this. Although I got to say another thing for AEW this week, or not for AEW, but actually for TNT. They are just, I was watching one tonight, and I mean, there was so much AEW promotion while watching one. There was, right after one ended, they replayed AEW, starting in with the Jericho interview, so they didn't play the Young Bucks match because the AEW went a little bit long. I mean, the one went a little bit long, the one show, which, by the way, did happen. I don't know what kind of crowd they got yet. The show's actually still going on, but now it's on BR. But it sounded like that there were not a lot of people there because of maybe there weren't a lot of tickets sold anyway. I don't know. But, you did have the issue with the Typhoon that's going on right now. The New Japan show, as we speak, is still going on. The dojo got flooded. The bottom floor got flooded. They had to move a lot of stuff to the top floor, or everything, I guess. So it's a bad scene. I'm going to suspect that the New Japan show will happen. I also will suspect that the crowd will be very light, even though they were almost sold out in tickets. They were not completely sold out, but they were almost sold out on this last Monday, a week ahead. But I mean, whatever there's a reason. Like, if that building's empty, or half empty or whatever, there's a reason. I mean, it's bad. It's real bad there right now.
All right, a couple of other notes in the UFC. Taz, AEW Dark this week doing commentary.
Yeah, cool. I mean, it's dark, whatever. I mean, it's good if they think that, I think bringing people, for that type of a thing, bringing people back to do like guest shots here and there, I think that's cool.
And tonight, the Ring of Honor #1 contender tournament wrapped up. The finals, PCO versus Marty Scurll. The winner, PCO. He will be facing Rush at Final Battle, Baltimore, Friday, December 13th. PCO versus Rush.
And both guys' contracts are coming due. PCO's contract's coming due in December. I think Rush is shortly thereafter. So, and I mean, everything, the indications I have, and of course, there's been the high level of negotiations or whatever hasn't happened, but I know that ROH made PCO a big offer to stay, and he's probably going to do that. And Roosh, Roosh is going to have all kinds of offers. Everybody wants him. I'm sure ROH will make a big offer to keep him as well. But he may get a bigger offer elsewhere. He may not. I don't know. I don't know. If WWE really wants him, they'll make a bigger offer for him. If they half-ass want him, they may not get him.
Alrighty, we had a UFC show here tonight from Tampa, Florida, headlined by Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Michelle Waterson, women's strawweight fight. Joanna made weight and still looked like twice Michelle Waterson's size in there.
Michelle Waterson's real little.
She's very, very small. 50-45, 50-45, 49-46. It was an exciting fight. It's a pretty good fight. Joanna just beat her all 5 rounds. I guess one judge probably gave round 3 to Waterson. She had a rear naked that she tried to get, but
I thought round 3 could have gone to Waterson. I mean, there were two times where Waterson took her down and got her back. In the 5th round, she really didn't come close. In the 3rd round, it was exciting. She almost had her, but she didn't get her. Standing Joanna. Joanna, I will say from the whole presentation, Joanna came across like a real superstar, and Waterson did to a degree as well. Waterson, I wouldn't say it was a great fight, but I was very into the personalities. They're in different ways very, very likable in very different ways. When the fight was over, my thought was I would really love for them to open up 105 for Michelle Waterson, because I think Michelle Waterson could win the championship at 105. I think Michelle Waterson, even now at this stage, it was probably would have been better if it was 5 years ago, because then she could have had a run and become like a big name. But because now I think she's mid-30s almost, so she's on the tail end. But she still could, end up being champion. She's definitely in great shape. She's a warrior, without a doubt. She was getting beat, and it's like there's a lot of people who would be getting beat and fold their tent, and she didn't fold her tent for 1 second in that fight. So that was kind of my thing. The result was not a surprise. Joanna's just bigger, and she's a better striker. And to beat Joanna, you either have to be a better striker than her, which Rose Namajunas turned out to be, but almost nobody else is, or you have to be an incredible grappler and get her down, which we haven't seen anyone actually do, because her only losses were moving up a weight class to Valentina Shevchenko, who's a great fighter. Valentina's probably, of all the women fighters in the sport, Valentina might be the second best. And Rose, who's just a phenomenal striker, and beat Joanna at her own game. So, but aside from that, Joanna's really been a standout. So Joanna and Weili Zhang for the championship. Weili Zhang got her visa this week, by the way. So that is the fight to make. I think that's a great fight. I would be very, very interested. Joanna is suggesting that they book it in Poland in the stadium that KSW ran. KSW did. I forgot the number, but it was close to 60,000 people. I think it was like 58,000 people. I'd have to look up the exact number a couple of years ago in that stadium. I don't know that UFC goes in and does that number, but I wouldn't be surprised if UFC could go in the stadium with Joanna and Weili for the championship and do, 30,000 people or more. I think they could do a really spectacular number for that in Poland. But Joanna, what a great promo she did at the end, and what a great fight she fought. She's just crisp, worked the leg.
I actually watched this fight after it was over, so I knew that she said that she broke her foot in the second round.
She broke her foot late second or early third, yeah.
So yeah, I'm watching this fight, and second round comes and goes, and she comes out for the third, and I'm like, you're fighting exactly the same as you were in the first round. She comes out for the fourth round, It's like you're fighting exactly the same as you fought in the first round. Fifth round, same thing. Fifth round, there was finally some swelling that started to show up, but you would never have known. Like, there are a lot of fighters that break their hand, they break their foot, and it's absolutely noticeable.
You know it right away.
This Joanna's out there just destroying this Watterson.
She is mentally tough.
On one foot. And yeah, it was super impressive. And she,
well, and it wasn't on one foot because she used the foot. It's like, but yeah, it was hurting because she was leg kicking that whole fight on the broken foot.
So yeah, she cut her promo afterwards. Said she wanted a title fight. Said she called Dana, and then Michelle starts out crying. Fans go crazy. She snaps out of it and says, "I was disappointed to take such a beating. It was not my plan," she said, "to take a beating."
No,
well, that's good. And she said
what she did wrong. She was
she went into great detail about all the things that she did wrong, and
she fought
back to the drawing board.
She fought a clinch battle, which she knew was the wrong thing, but she just got stubborn and did it. But you know what? I mean, this is the truth. No matter what strategy she had, she was still losing this fight. There was just a difference in size, and there was a difference in speed and talent. Michelle Watterson's a very good fighter. But Joanna is a level above. And then I think that everybody knew that going into this fight. I think everyone knew that Joanna was going to win. The one thing that, like, I guess because I'm a reporter. So the one thing that got me really mad this week was, okay, Joanna asked early in the week, she did not think she would be able to make weight. She was having real trouble with cutting weight. She had done some cutting, and then her weight went up, and she was, that's kind of messes with your mind. So she asked for it to be at 120. Michelle Watterson said no, and the fight nearly fell apart. Okay, and Joanna ended up making weight. Okay, but on this broadcast, Dana White first goes, there's no story to it. It's like, she asked. That's not fake news. She asked, can we do it 120? Because she didn't think she was going to make weight. Her weight was absolutely a story. That story was accurate. Again, they almost moved Michelle Watterson to fight on another card. Michelle Watterson did turn down Amanda Ribas, which is probably a good thing because Amanda Ribas looked really good. And Mackenzie Dern, who... that would have been an interesting fight. I mean, it's a different fight. I don't know what would have happened in that fight. I think Michelle Watterson could have beaten Mackenzie Dern, but she didn't. She had trained for this, and that she wasn't going to fight one of those other women. But the whole card, the whole thing. I mean, there was absolute talk of Cub Swanson and Kron Gracie being the main event on this show. That was all accurate. And then they're out there trying to say, hey, it's all made up, it's all fake. And then on the broadcast, they're just doing this thing about how, there was never an issue and she made weight. And it's like, Joanna at the end, of course, said that was, in fact, that there was an issue, and she explained it in detail. But, the whole thing is like, why, it's like, she goes, she's trying to make weight and all, but it was like, I just found that, like, the whole thing of, like, denying the story that if you knew what was going on behind the scenes, which I did, to deny the story that was completely true, the whole thing really bothered me, the last day or two, the way, it's just like, she made weight, and all that, but this, this fight nearly fell through. That's just what happened during the week.
So then we had the Cub Swanson versus Kron Gracie fight, and if you heard that Cub Swanson and Kron Gracie had a fight that was virtually all standing, you would think, my God, Cub's either going to totally destroy this guy or it's going to be a very boring fight.
It was neither.
You would be wrong on both counts. This fight was great.
It's a great fight.
Going into the third round, it was 79-79 in strikes landed. Kron Gracie out there going toe-to-toe with Cub Swanson and landing. He bloodied up his nose in the first round. Cub Swanson bloodied up Kron's nose in the second round. And they just had like a super exciting fight.
It's a great fight. Kron Gracie is really tough. That was
he is a very tough guy.
Okay, the number of strikes may have been equal, but the reality is that the quality of those strikes was not equal. Cub was outstriking him. He was landing crisper shots. Kron might have been landing as many, but Cubs were crisper. But
Kron was fighting a Diaz brothers fight.
Well,
where you land a large volume of strikes, but you're not necessarily doing significant damage with every single one of those strikes.
Yeah, he wasn't landing more strikes though. They were landing the same. But the thing with Crone Gracie is that he can take a hell of a punch, and he took some hard body shots, and he did not wilt. He is just a tough guy. That was the one take I had on this. When you prove, and they did here, that against a top guy, that Crone Gracie cannot take you down at will and submit you at will. At the top level, I think that Crone Gracie is not going to fare very well. At the middle level, yeah, he'll submit guys. He'll take him down and submit him. But like in this one, I mean, he never came close to a submission here when it was on the ground. And it did go on the ground a couple times. And, Cub Swanson's got a good jiu-jitsu background. So it's not like it was, it was like, a slouch guy. But still, that was the story. And standing, Cub Swanson is the better striker. And in the third round, Cub Swanson did outstrike him. But yeah, I mean, Crone hung in there. Great fight. But I think that there was a lot of expectations Crone Gracie was going to win. And it was a big test. It's like if he could have passed this test, he could have gotten a really big fight out of it, but he didn't pass the test.
$50,000 they both got for the fight of the night bonus. Nico Price and Marlon Vera performance of the night. Very good fight if you get a chance to check it out. We had the Nico Price-James Vick fight. Went a minute 44. Price got a takedown. Vick tried a guillotine. They stood back up. Vick got a takedown. And as they're scrambling, Price hits an up kick and knocked this dude out for a while. And Vick was down for a long time afterwards. Very impressive, rare up kick knockout. Mm-hmm. We had the Amanda Ribas-Mackenzie Dern fight, 30-27 across the board. This was kind of what you would expect from the Crone Gracie fight, and that is Mackenzie Dern couldn't take her down, and so she got pounded on for 3 straight rounds. She's also very tough.
She was tough. I think that Mackenzie Dern. I'm just watching the fight. I think she came back way too quick. She gave birth 4 months ago, and I just didn't feel like she was sharp. She probably wasn't going to. Ribas is a really good fighter. I don't even think Mackenzie Dern at her best could have beaten Ribas. But she just didn't seem in sync at all. But also, she was much slower. She was the much slower of the two, and that played a big difference. And Ribas is really good at jiu-jitsu, so Mackenzie Dern couldn't play that game and beat her. In fact, it was Ribas was the one who was getting the takedowns, not Dern for the most part. So, Ribas just beat her at every aspect of the game. I thought like Ribas should be way up there in the ratings. I mean, I could see her not at the top, but I could see her with fighting next against something like Tatiana Suarez or somebody like at that real level. She's really good. I think that she's like going to be a player in the division. She could fight Carla Esparza, somebody like that, and probably beat Carla Esparza and be someone in that mix. Mackenzie Dern, the rep on her is that she doesn't train hard. She relies on her natural talent, and that's not going to get her very far in UFC because everybody trains hard, and they're all, at the top level, they're all really talented. So if you're a guy who, I know John Jones is the exception to that rule, but if you're someone who is parties a lot and is not like doesn't have a super training mentality, you're not going to get to the top in UFC for the most part.
So we had the Matt Frevola-Luis Pena fight. This was a split decision, 28-29, 29-28, 29-28. And very close, exciting first round.
It was a good fight.
Yeah.
It was a really good fight.
It was weird because the first round was very close. And the second round, Pena clearly won this fight, to the point that Bisping thought it could be a 10-8 round. So it's a very clear round. They go to the corners, and even though he was beaten, maybe 10-8, Frivola's corner tells him, "You're killing this guy." And
right.
It's always like,
he could have lost that first round.
Yes,
first round was close.
It was very close. So, like,
the first round was close.
You, to me, you can't tell your guy you're killing this dude if he potentially lost a round 10-8 and may have lost the first round. But they tell him that.
But even, you know what? Okay, put it this way. Payne clearly won round 2. So even if you think your guy has won round 1,
you don't tell him that after round 2,
and it wasn't clear. You got to tell him. You've got to tell him you may be down 2 rounds, because he may have been. You know, it's split, or you may be down 2 rounds. You're killing this guy is like the worst advice possible.
Well, lo and behold, he went out there and he had a great third round.
Yeah, I thought he won the third round.
Yep, he was winning standing up and on the ground, and got a takedown after Pena slipped, pounded on him near the fence. Basically, it all came down to whether you thought he won the first round and whether you thought the second round was a 10-8. No judge thought the second round was a 10-8, and so he won.
I didn't have a 10-8, but I did think that Pena won the first. But it was close. I mean, it's not a robbery. I was a little bit on the side of a bad decision, unlike the first fight, where the first fight legitimately could have gone either way. I mean, it was just like there's no robbery either way. The first fight was very, very close.
It was Eric Anders and Gerald Meerschaert. It was 28-29, 29-28, 29-28. Fight was actually pretty boring, but it was close.
It was kind of boring, yeah.
I felt that the first round was clearly Anders' round.
Oh, Anders definitely won.
Second and third were very close, and what basically happened was one guy would do well, and the other guy would get a flurry right at the very end of the round. And so, because of that, like, that could sway judges, basically. And clearly it swayed one judge because we got a split decision. But in the end, Eric Anders won, and you can skip this fight if you're going through the show.
Yeah, I would definitely say you could do that.
All right, did you watch any of the undercard?
No, I didn't watch the undercard. I was sleeping all day. I was catching up on 2 big days of a lot of stuff, waking up very, very early, going to bed very, very late.
Welcome to my life of late.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's usually my life too, but when you combine traveling, it's and early morning flights and all that, it's...
the travel sucks.
To Vegas, it's not a problem. I mean, there's just a lot going on in Vegas, you know what I mean? I mean, it's just a lot. I didn't realize till I got home, but I realized when I got home that I didn't eat much. Because I'd lost like 3 pounds in like 2 days eating restaurant food because I was just running around so much that I was missing meals. And that sucks.
Let's do a couple of the mailbag questions here. This person says, with NXT ratings dropping, how long until Vince makes Finn Balor the NXT champion?
I don't know that's not the answer. I mean, they could do it, but I put it this way. It could happen. But I think that the changes they're going to look at, I think that their mentality right now is probably going to be that we're just going to go with what we're going to do. And then January, we're going to go to arenas, and then we'll be on even footing with them. And then we'll win the war of attrition. I think that because we're WWE and we always win. I think that is their mentality. Whether that's a correct mentality is a different story. But the one thing, especially from talking to some people who I know that watched both shows, that are not familiar is both, and I think both shows did this, but NXT worse of the two. NXT just, they put you out there, and it's just like they didn't introduce anyone to you. They didn't start it's like if you're a new fan for television, and the whole idea of television is to make new fans, it's like it should have started at the beginning of the book. And AEW, to a degree, did that, but AEW also assumed that you were in the middle of the book. And, like those people who bought tickets to the live show, they're in the middle of the book. But the TV viewers are on page 1 of the book, and you're being taken to the middle, and you didn't see the first half of the book. And with NXT, it was even worse. Like I said, it was like there was no introduction of anything. It's like, this is, you got to tell people who these people are, explain. Just everyone's just out there doing the continuation from last week's NXT, when you have probably, 8 times as many viewers as you had for last week's NXT. You had all these freaking new viewers. And it's like, I think that's part of the problem is that you're in the middle of stories, and the people watching week 1, which, I thought week 1 of NXT was a good show, but I'm reading the book along with them. I'm not that new viewer. And with AEW, it's even worse. But with AEW, I try to put myself, with NXT, I guess I tried to a degree. So, and I think that was actually, one of the things that I was kind of mad about was the lack of introducing people, at the beginning. And the perfect example was like Wednesday show with Kushida and Walter in the main event. And it's like, I knew that match was going to get absolutely destroyed because it's like, I know Walter's great and Kushida's great, but the average person doesn't know either of them at all. They don't know them. So it's like you're putting that as a main event because you're people who've watched, NXT UK or follow the indies, know Walter, or follow New Japan Pro Wrestling and know Kushida. But it's like that USA Network audience, a lot of those, most of those people don't fit into that category. So yeah, that's why that thing dropped so big. And that's why, with AEW, it's the big thing that I talked about, with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks is like, there is absolutely an audience, part of their audience that knows who they are and that they're superstars to that audience and all that. But the whole idea of TV is new audience. And to new audience, you have to start from scratch with these people from day one and build them up rather than, let's do something completely new with them. Not so much new, but like we'll use the Young Bucks to put other people over. And Kenny's going to do a new character to get him back to the original character when most people haven't seen the original character to begin with. And you need to start with the original character. Then maybe at, a year from now, you can do the storyline that you're doing and tell this story. But it's like, I think that's like the big problem is that, it's like you've got to do these shows for the new audience, not for the existing audience. The existing audience will be there. The new audience is the one that wasn't there in week, 2. And the same goes for NXT. The new audience is the one that's falling off because they're being given these main events and they look at these guys and it's like, who are these guys in main events? And it's all about star power. And especially for television. Television's about star power. And you've got to make stars. They're not automatically stars. Even though they're stars to a percentage of the viewership that tuned in for the first time, that didn't tune in for the second time and third time on these shows, those are the people who these people aren't stars with yet. So you've got to focus on, like when the thing started, my thought on, I would say this for both, is because you can't make 15 stars in one show. So each show, to me, if I was doing AEW or I was doing NXT, is like, I got 3 guys I'm concentrating on, and I'm going to push the fuck out of them on the first shows. So the first show is going to be 3 guys. The next show will be another 3 guys. And pretty soon, I'm going to have 12 stars, because I focused them instead of just running, a regular exciting card for the existing audience. But, you still would have those matches, but you just got to really introduce people to them and build. And they just, I think that's the problem, among other things. And I know from other people I've heard the same thing, is that if you tune in and you don't know who these people are, they didn't really, I think that with AEW, like when I watch it, it's like, okay, I believe that to the television audience, that probably Chris Jericho is a star. He's been around for a long time. And if you're a wrestling fan, you know who he is. If you're sampling it, you probably know who Chris Jericho is. You may know who Cody is, but, you don't know this Cody. Yeah, the fact when you see him, he gets a big reaction is a plus. But it's like these other guys, it's like you've got to, you cannot assume we know who they are. And there was a lot of that, because of, and that's an issue.
This person wants to know if there are any upcoming, impending, notable WWE free agents coming up.
I don't know. I haven't really heard of, I haven't heard much about key people's contracts. Most of the key contracts were this year. I guess there'll be some. Well, I mean, Brock, Brock at WrestleMania. I know that. Right after WrestleMania, the Revival. I know that. But those are the only ones that I've really heard about. Mostly, they're really locking guys down for 5 years. I mean, across the board. That's the idea.
And this person here wants to know, what is the personal relationship like between Brock and Kane? Are they professionally amicable?
I'm sure they respect each other, but they're not like friends or anything. I've never heard of them socializing or anything like that. I mean, Brock knows Kane's a great fighter, and I think Kane knows in this world, Brock's a great pro wrestler, and Kane's learning. Kane's going to be interesting. They signed multi-year, big money. It's like, I know in the ring he will learn quick because we've seen that, barring injury. And with Kane, that's a big thing. Injuries are a big part of Kane. But I know he loves wrestling a lot. I know his family loves wrestling, which also helps a lot. I mean, his kids love wrestling. His wife loves wrestling. They watch, like, they're super fans. Okay. So that's a plus, because you're going to have that family support. But it's still, there's the in-ring aspect of wrestling that he'll probably do well if he doesn't get hurt in. But that other aspect of wrestling, he's just, like I've always said, of all the guys I knew that were top guys in MMA, he was the one that I least expected to go into pro wrestling because he's quiet. He's not a public speaker. He's not a naturally charismatic guy. He was charismatic as a Mexican superstar in UFC to a degree because he came along at the right time and because he was such a great fighter. But maybe so it could be like he did with AAA that he would go out there and do a bunch of acrobatic moves, and the wrestling fans will really take to him because they know he's such a great athlete and a real fighter, and he's doing that stuff, and he may be able to get over in the ring real good doing that, maybe, but that's not going to be, he's not going to be out there, I don't think, doing, planches and stuff like that in a match with Brock Lesnar. So the Lesnar match, I expect that it will be fine just because WWE, they'll practice it out and everything. When they have, like with Ronda or whatever, when they have people that you think aren't going to do well, Floyd Mayweather and all that, they usually pull it off. It's usually the ones when they have the good workers with each other and they give them like ridiculous matches to go through and then terrible finishes. That's usually where it the matches are disappointments. They usually overachieve when it comes to these kind of matches. So I'm not like, on paper, I still worry about Braun Strowman and Fury, just because that's a tougher one. But Brock and Kane, I think that they're going to have a decent match. But I'm just talking about Kane long term. I don't know. There's a lot of questions there. If he stands there and if they can get him over as a monster, and I think that they will book him that way, and he has the right mouthpiece, I think it can work to a degree because there is a legitimacy to him. If they can get that legitimate aura thing with him, and then they're not very good at that. They did pull it off with Brock, but as a general rule, they pulled it off with Goldberg too. But they're often, not the best at that also.
All right, everybody, on that note, we're going to wrap it up for today. All sorts of stuff up on the front page. Lots to listen to, lots to read, new observers out. Check it out. That's it. We'll talk to you again after a while.